Thanks everybody for coming to the Toronto 150 event. This is the sort of big programming event for ACO Toronto for this year. And I want to just do a few thank yous, and I want to talk a little bit about what the organization is doing, just so that, just in case. How many people here are members? Okay, there's a whole lot of you that we would like to join. So you can do that online. We're not prepared with membership forms today, but you can go to acotoronto.ca and go online, and you can find out about TO Built and all the other things we're doing. So first, biggest thank you to today is to our intern, Lucia Gambetti Bracco, who has just been doing a spectacular job of making this happen and contacting all the speakers and organizing all of this. This is probably the biggest event that ACO Toronto has ever tackled, and it's been easy for us to do because we have the assistance, the very talented assistance of Lucia. Not here yet, but I suspect Sharuz will be on his way. We have to thank him for the brilliant graphics. He's a new member of our executive, so you can be sure that our stuff's going to look tons better in the next few years. And we will be screening a video a little later. Just want to tell you about that we've got a slight change in the order of the program. We're going to open with Carolyn King because she was here first. And then we will after that we will have the introduction from Raymond Moriyama to the building. That's an interesting story. We called Raymond to speak about the project, and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'd love to do that, but I just have this conflict. I can't change my plans. But if I were to come, I would speak about this, and I would speak about that, and this other story." And we just thought, like, we just have to capture this on video. So that's what we did, and that's what you're going to be hearing. And then we will proceed through the order of speakers as they're set out in the program. Just to give you a little idea of what we do in between these events, we've been working with, people call us all the time for advice on how to manage a heritage problem in their community. We're in the process of publishing the Rosedale book. We've hired Jamie Bradburn to be the author. We're very excited about that. We've got a great editorial committee on that. Bill Moffat, Matt Blackett, myself, and Panina Coopersmith, who's leading the charge on that. We argued for the preservation of York Square. We're not sure how that's going to end up at the OMB, but we made a lot of effort on that, as well as on the Coca-Cola building, that along with extraordinary efforts of Jeff Cattell and others to preserve that building. We worked on trying to save the Davisville School. Well, nobody cares about that one. We're still at it, and we have put in a nomination. Richard Longley, as well as Carol Kleinfeld and Kim Story, put in a nomination to the National Trust Top 10 Endangered list. If it doesn't make it, it should make it, because every school in the province, we discovered that this is not the only building that's been run down to the point of ridiculous. And so that's the kinds of things we're doing. We have some money in the bank. Well, we don't have enough people to run the kind of programming that we would like to be engaged in. We'd like to be having people spending more time watching what's going on at the Preservation Board, working with community organizations so we get a better early warning system of what's going on out there. We want to get all the school buildings onto TO Built. For the reasons I just outlined. And we're very excited as a result of an editorial put together by Michael McClelland suggesting that we just list everything and survey the whole city. Next week, there are going to be 3 motions at City Council authored by people from different parts of the political spectrum, all pushing that idea forward. So I don't know where that's going to go, but that's very exciting. And ACO Toronto with TO Built is in the position to to be the place everybody records what they're finding out. So we're very excited at that potential. So let's see where that goes. And in fact, we're mentioned in one of the motions. So those are the things that we're involved in. We'd like to do more. You may have some heritage project that you'd like to pursue. ACO Toronto is a very big tent. If there's something that you want to work on, and it would be beneficial to you and to the project to be part of charitable work. For example, heritage conservation districts. If you're a community organization that wants to pursue a heritage conservation district and you need to fundraise to support that work, we can't fundraise for you, but we can help by partnering and accepting and issuing tax receipts to support those kinds of efforts. So that's what we do, and that's enough about us. I would like you now to welcome Carolyn King.
Honey, good morning. So I'm not doing my presentation. I'm just going to do a little welcome. It's now customary for us to participate in meetings like this and to do a welcome to our traditional territory. So, Honey, Carolyn King, Mississaugas, New Credit, and that's kind of all I know in the language, and just my name. And then Honey is hello, and then Mississaugas is my name, and Ajabayan New Credit, I kind of said that wrong, is sort of like where I live, and that's about 70 miles from here, type thing. It was a good drive in. It was about an hour and a half to get here with little traffic, and that's so. I often tell people, the same reason we moved away is the same reason we can't get back. Too many people. So, and Toronto definitely is growing. So, with that. This is our, we live to our people. And just to add another note, I'm born and raised on Six Nations. My grandmother is from New Credit, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and that I'm part of what's called the Tobico family line. And we can claim fame to that we're a direct line of the people who moved here, from here to where we are today. And that's so, I have a strong connection to the Toronto GTA area. So with that, I want to do just an official statement, is that we'd like to welcome you to the traditional territory and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. Miigwech is thank you, sort of big thank you. And we say that often, Miigwech, and it's interpreted as thank you. An elder from the north told me that, he said, do you know what that means? And I said, thank you. And he said, no, it's kind of interpreted in the Anishinaabe Ojibwe language as, I give myself to you. So, Miigwech. Okay, Mississaugas of the New Credit. As I said, this is part of our traditional territory and treaty lands. And yes, we're the one who settled it's called the Toronto Purchase. That 1805. It took us over 200 years to do it. And as the elected chief in 87 to 99, 2-year term, that I was part of the group that relaunched the claim. So I'm quite familiar with the claim, and literally those 2 years was almost spent, in what they call the planning conference. So aside for that, I want to make a statement. I run for chief, and I was the chief for 2 years, and I didn't like the system that we are in as First Nations people across the country. So I didn't run again, and I said that I was going to change the world before I go back, and that I want to change the way that we're elected, and I have this dream to make a movie about the land claim process in Canada and what we go through. I mean, I don't know how to make a movie, but before I'm done, there's going to be a movie. And that's so, we'll see. But anyway, that is, our people are from the north. And you'll see in my presentation, you'll see some of that migration move into, from the north, Mississauga 8 area, Blind River, into all along the eastern side of the Great Lakes there, Lake Huron, all around Georgian Bay, Lake Simcoe, and then split to Toronto area and over to what's now maybe Belleville type thing. So the Mississaugas of the Credit are part of the Toronto group. And that's, we've, over the years, constantly brought before the governments of the day that this was our land and that the settlement wasn't correct. And that, I said, sometimes it feels that we are always complaining type thing, but due to the, like, it's just an injustice. And for that to take that long to make a settlement. And then in the end, we only got 142 million, which is a lot for us in our world. But really, it's like a parking lot down here. So at any rate, we're making a different presence here. And I'll maybe comment later about that. So there are a lot of areas here in Toronto that carry our significance, whether it's village sites or trails, cemeteries, burial sites, and that. So we're looking to talk about that or come back. And well, I was mentioning it. We're trying to make a presence here, and we're even right on the table right now is that the Mississaugas of the Democratic First Nation Chief and Council, they are looking to come back to Toronto and make a presence in an area here called an Indigenous business area. So I would say we're coming back to town and looking to make some money. And not, as part of the strategic plan is that how are we going to survive in the future? What if, you know, the Indian Affairs changes and the transfer of money changes and, you know, that type of thing. So we're just really looking ahead. So if you haven't met our chief, he's out and about doing a lot of talks with people and that. So moving to my presentation, I've updated it with some current pictures. The Moccasin Identifier project, it just doesn't have any other different name because this is how we started out and now it's stuck. And that, so the idea is that we would identify areas that are significant to us in the, all in what we call our traditional territory, and you'll see that in one of the slides. So that's how we started with this, and that the idea was born with my historical friends, and some are in the audience here today, that we're doing a digital mapping program. And that people said, well, what will I see when I go there? You know, you got your smartphone and you go around and you can mark a site. And I said, that was maybe our village site. And I said, well, you'll probably see nothing. It's paved over, built over. And I said, but, and they said, well, there should be a marker of some sort. So I said, okay. And it suggested a feather, okay, which would recognize us. But a feather is too important to us. And that it's you get an eagle feather for significance. And I didn't bring mine today, but I have one. You only need one, but I have more than one. About doing good stuff for your people, that type of thing. And so, but the eagle feather down at a powwow is important. It's so important that everything stops in the picking up of an eagle feather at a cultural event. And so we wouldn't want to use that and have it on the ground where people would walk on it and not understand its significance. So as architectural people, you know, kind of those barriers you don't go to. The other one is our totems or our clans, you know, whether it's the, you know, the animals or the plants, the birds, that type of thing. Same thing. Those are important to us. And they signify something that's, you know, part of us. And so we don't want them walked on. They can go on the wall, that type of thing, same as the feather, but not walked on and not understood. And that, so they said, Carolyn, come up with something. And so I took on my whiteboard at work and I wrote on the board, what will identify us and connect us to the land? And it shouldn't have taken me 3 days, but it did. And so on Thursday, I went into the office and it was my job that day, every day. Start the day and ask that question. And I said, it's our footwear. And we all have, all of our nations and all the people of the world have different footwear type things. So the Moccasin Identifier project was born. So we're going to start my slide presentation here. If we as First Nations people do not get a marker on the ground today, we will be lost forever. The new people coming into this country, just for example, the 25,000 Syrians, do they have any idea about us? And they have enough problems in their life, where they're coming from, escaping from, to come here and hear our sad story. So, just for instance, so how do we tell our story in a better way? How will they ever know about us? How will they recognize whose land they're on? How will they know us as we live today? Sites that are significant to us include Indian reserves, as we live today and know today. And I've lived on an Indian reserve all my life. Born and raised on Six Nations, Fourth Line, married over to New Credit, and been there for almost 50 years, and married to the same guy even. And that, so I'm part of both communities, and so literally lived my whole life on an Indian reserve. So that's what I know. Our ancestral villages that are located here, even in this area here, could well be a part of a trail or a village site or a special site. The burial grounds at ancestral sites and areas. We have records that show that our George King, traditional chief, in the early 1800s, was born on Toronto Island. It's listed in the records. So we have people who are here, our ancestors. Sacred sites, those gathering places where we come together and so maybe talk about our future or talk about what's happening in the community or celebrations. And spiritual places where there's special places. Toronto Island is one of those special places for us, where we went to as it is still used today by Toronto, a place of rest, respite, even healing, where you can move away from that hustle and bustle and regather your strength. So, and there's those different places like that, and especially along the waters, and medicine sites where we collected medicines for use by our people of the day and healing purposes. We have significant sites, trails. There's we've worked with people here on the shared path. That's just amazing work that was done there. Trails, summer and winter camps, all up and down the waterways. Hunting, fishing, gathering, harvesting sites. And almost always, the archaeology community will tell you 300 feet on each side of the river waterway was our highway. And that's so the archaeological maps will play that out. So the idea of creating, marking these areas and educating people using digitization of those sites so in archaeology we don't show the exact site, we just general area. So the idea was and the idea is really simple, and it's based on, if some of you might understand or know the Little Yellowfish Road, which is an environmental project that's in the province here, and that to help protect the water, they put a program into the schools where you paint the yellowfish on the concrete or outside your school, or you paint it on top of the sewer drain. And I've done that over there we did the walk there along Trinity Bells Park there, and I painted about three blocks of yellowfish stencils. So the concept is the same. The idea is that on June 21st we thought it was going to be last year, and hopefully it's going to be this year, that every school in this province will research whose land their school is built on, near, or what treaty area. And then they'll take my stencil like this, a stencil like this, that you take and paint it on the road, paint it on a rock, a block, a plaque, on the sidewalk, whatever type thing. And that then it washes. It's supposed to be what I call school paint. We painted it at Fleet Street to Fort York, and I got latex paint, but you have to go wash it off right away, right? Latex just refers to that you wash it up with paint with water. Well, it's still there. And there's a lot of work to go into this because it has to be approved by the municipality. We got in trouble at Fort York. They told me I could do it, so I went and did it. I brought my young kids in from home, from New Credit, 3 young boys there, and I said, we're going to paint the sidewalk. You know, we're going to go paint the town red in Toronto. So they're all hyped, and we come down here, we make a little jig and everything, and we do it. A day and a half. We painted from Fleet Street all along the sidewalk, and it's still there, and right into the Fort York doorway. And so the next morning we come back in the city, because we're getting ready for the Pan Am Games. And Robert Kerr, who's with the city, he says, Carolyn, I need to talk to you about the Moccasin Identifier. And I go, oh, wasn't that great? We got it all done. Oh my God, the boys just loved it. And he goes, yeah. He goes, not everybody's happy with that. And I said, what do you mean? You said to do it. And I said, and we did it, and we'll paint more. And he said, well, the higher-ups kind of didn't know about it, and we had trouble, and we painted. See, it's graffiti. If you don't have permission by the city, it's graffiti. So we were in trouble. And so that night, we were doing the big gala, July 9th, before the Pan Am Games started. And so Mayor John Tory was a guest. So when it was all over, I waited in line to go see him. And I showed him the pictures, told him what we had done, and he said, oh, that's a great idea. And I said, well, you know what? We got in trouble with your people. And he goes, really? And so then he pulls out his card, and he says, Carolyn, you can paint that Moccasin Identifier any place in my city. We're on. And the other thing is the idea about the Moccasin Identifier. It is in the city's official plan as an example of what the city could do to recognize the Aboriginal history. So we got lots of permissions in place, but maybe not a municipal ruling or whatever. So there's a bit of work done to get it all done. On private property, like inside off of the main street, public streets, we can do it. So this is, we're making headway. I got this one here, that's the Anishinaabe moccasin that you'll see there. And that it means the puckered seam, Ojibwe, us, Mississaugas, the puckered seam. So this one here is the one that's making headway around here. So we'll go on here. What have we done? We promoted the idea that some type of marker or plaque would be placed on sites that have been plowed up, dug up, paved over, or built over. And we've done further research using sites that are already part of the archaeological record, and they show that it was there. But the one thing we found about with the maps, the archaeological maps, those are only when they have dug up something. It's not the previous stuff where they weren't doing an archaeological survey. And that, so we come up with the idea of the moccasin as a symbol to recognize their existence and identity. Because it might be here in Toronto, you would have the Anishinaabe, New Credit, you'd have the Iroquois, and you'd have the Huron. So we have moccasin styles for all of those. So that's hopefully what the project will be. And if you do the Cree in the north, the Anishinaabe sort of mid, the Hurons that are now out of here, but all their remains are here, they're in Quebec, and then the Iroquois who moved in from the United States. That you can, linguistically, you can cover Ontario safely with those. So just a bit about showing where we are. See, this shows you see on there about where we moved from. We're doing a lot of work to map our where we traveled from, and all along that trail, it is pretty well all Anishinaabe, Ojibwe stuff that you will find. In the green there marks, this was our first time that we marked out our traditional territory, and it's based on a very early statement before Canada was Canada and before, we were fighting over land between the Ojibwe and the Iroquois. So this is a new map. This is right on our website. A lot of work is being done as part of duty to consult and accommodate to identify the treaty areas. And that in my other project, a presentation I do is called Indian 101, who are the Aboriginal people in Canada today. I talk to people like, how did we get to the situation we're at today? And that Canada, North America literally is all treated land. And that the new thing I've added is that we've all lived a lie. The governments of the day told you that when you bought that section of land, that it was free and clear. And they told us that it was sharing. We're sharing it. And that you can always come and hunt and fish and gather and survive using the land that you've lived on. But you go live over there on your section of land, and we'll look after you forever. The treaty says in perpetuity. People don't realize that that is still, brings us right up to today and what that means. And so you can see on these are cessations of land that have happened with the Mississaugas for the settlement of southern Ontario. And every other First Nation and group has the same kind of mapping happening today and understanding why there are land claims. And so I said, it's time for us to start to live the truth. It never was that way for you, and it was never that way for us. So there's a new understanding to happen, and I think hopefully with our Moccasin Identifier project that we can start to change that view. Here's just another map that shows, put on a provincial map showing where the lines are. Because people will ask, okay, am I in that area? Are you coming after my house? You know, like, no, we're not coming after anybody's house. The system doesn't work that way. So we did a lot of research to get to the where we are today. We linked up with friends and teachers in the Toronto area. Catherine Watts suggested the marker, and once we realized it was going to be the footwear, then the research started with the moccasin at the Bata Shoe Museum, which has a significant collection and exhibition of shoes from the entire world, with over half of it being Indigenous. It is just amazing. I've been honored to be 2 stories down in the vaults at the Bata Shoe Museum, and the Sonia Bata, who's the buyer, and that's her museum, that there are 2 things exactly the same size, and you go into the one, and it's the Indigenous footwear from the circumpolar and North America. So there's only one Anishinaabe moccasin in there, because there's moccasins and stuff from Nunavut, Tibet, all over the place. But amazing. I said, there are a few things in this world that stop me from talking. That day, oh my goodness, I went in there, and the smell of the leather, the smoked tanning process, and some of these are people's footwear. So it has a smell. I just took my breath away. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Amazing, amazing. And the other room, which is similar size, is the rest of the world. So you can see the presence she puts on the Indigenous collection. And there are various, they changed the exhibit up. I think the Athabascan one is up now. They took down the Beauty, Pride, and Identity was the exhibit that showed all of that. So amazing. So some of those, we've come up with designs, and these are all research. They have partnered with us, and they give us full access to their curated collection. So these are people's drawing. We have Philip Cote, who's our artist. He did the research on them, and he did the drawings, and he did the symbols. So you see this one here? That's a Huron moccasin, and that it is no man-made stuff. Those are porcupine quills, leather, and lacing. There are no other things on it. So, and the next one is the Anishinaabe moccasin. That's the one that that I just showed you. And you see the puckered seam. It's done up a little bit differently with the vamps and stuff like that. But check out the puckered seam. So going back, see this one here has a vamp. You see in the middle there. And different ones there's differences. It's all leather, it's all Indigenous people type thing. So there we are there with our moccasin one. This one here is taking the front and center right now, okay? And what we're doing is we're just getting this project back on the table. I was the employee with the First Nation, and is what they call a soft project, and so it got put on the back burner, and we're just bringing it back to the forefront today. And hopefully it's going to be me who's doing all the promotions on it and getting it done. And that's and so we turned that into a stencil. This is what you take, and with a paint roller or a spray can, you paint on sidewalk or on the plaque or on the side of the building, wherever it's permissible to go. So you see it there. This is it. Real, like I call it, this is real simple stuff. But the impact is going to be so great. I say, I have a dream too. I said that in the next decade, Ontario is going to be covered with moccasin identifiers. And they will forever know whose land they're on. That's my dream. Thank you. So, is things happening? Here is the city of Guelph. They are taking our moccasin and the other one, and they're putting it on those street banners. You know, they're like tourism banners. And the other banner is going to be the Six Nations. That's the pine tree for the Six Nations Iroquois people. And the next one, this is Ontario Place. This is a project between the First Nation, Mississaugas New Credit First Nation, and the City of Toronto. And I'm told to make sure I say it this way, Ontario Place is Ontario's place. I hear somebody here's one of the designers for that. But the city tells me, they said, it's just located in Toronto. That place is not Toronto's. It's supposed to represent all of Ontario. So the project is that as they make this new park trail, which is on the eastern side of the Ontario Place, and unfortunately right under the airport, you know, they're taking out planes and stuff. But we were you know, successful in getting them to honor the First Nation people who were there. And this is April 11th. This photo is April 11th. Is it not showing up? I can't. Okay, sorry about that. That is 15 feet high at its highest point and 35 feet long, and that moccasin is engraved 3 inches deep into the stone. So things are happening. Next steps, the First Nations are preparing an implementation across the territory and plans to meet with the Ministry of Education to have this become a province-wide initiative. And so you can help, suggest sites where the symbol could be painted, research your own office location, give input on stories, write a lesson plan for your area, identify significant sites and areas. We can all make it happen. Thank you. Chi miigwech.